Speaking of big time, The Rock is going to headline his very first WrestleMania at WrestleMania 15. Let's just time out right now to make sure everybody's processing how crazy this story is. My man debuted at the Survivor Series in 1996. So 1997 is his first WrestleMania, and they're still trying the white meat babyface thing with him and his dad, and he's taking on the Sultan, and it's kind of a forgettable gimmick, but that's what's happening at WrestleMania 13. Fast forward WrestleMania 14, and he's wrestling Ken Shamrock and interviewing Jennifer Flowers. And at 15, he's on top with Stone Cold. The main event. He's coming into WrestleMania as the world champion at just his third WrestleMania appearance. That's not something we see very often in wrestling, then, now, or ever.
No, it doesn't. Well, he's special. He was special. And nobody thought, well, he's getting too much too soon. At least I didn't think that. He had acquired the skills. He had the aptitude. Just seamless fit, man.
Seamless fit is it. It's going to be the first of 3 WrestleMania main events for he and Stone Cold. Of course, Stone Cold is the hottest star in the history of wrestling at this point. And it's no surprise that he's going to regain the title from The Rock. They go 16 minutes and 52 seconds. Meltzer seemed to like it pretty well. He gave it 3.5 stars. But maybe something that we should mention for you is this is a big moment in your career too. You're brought back to announce the main event. You get a huge ovation from the crowd. And this is sort of,
I think it was because of the vest, bro.
I think it was because we were no longer letting you do the JR's turning heel silly parody shit. Yeah. And we were just saying, let's forget all that. This is WrestleMania. Let's be serious. That makes me wonder, was that a request of Rock and Austin, you think?
I always heard it was. It wasn't discussed with me other than Vince saying, you're going to call the main event at WrestleMania. But I heard later on that Rock and Steve both were in strong favor of me calling that match for them. You know, I'd hired both guys. I'd helped them along the way as best I could in my role. So I had no issues with that whatsoever. It was a great honor to call that match. You know, those cats had 3 one-on-one main events at WrestleMania, 15, yes. 17, and 19. Yep. I just read about 19 yesterday on the audio book. And the interesting fact about that is that there were like 3 people, Rock, Vince, and me, that knew this was going to be Steve's last match at WrestleMania 19 in Seattle at Safeco Field. So it was very emotional. I can tell you that I never broke down and cried that I can recall. And I came so close into breaking down when Austin was leaving the ring in Seattle. That's in the book. We talk about it. We talk about how I felt, how he felt, all that good stuff. But it was hard to watch because I knew that he was done. And knowing him, when he said said something, he meant it. So when he said he was going to retire, I had no doubt that was not exactly what was going to happen. So it was emotional, to say the least. This book is full of emotion, quite frankly, and stuff that only I would know because I lived it. So anyhow, their marriage, can you imagine nowadays trying to book 3 of the same match at 3 different WrestleManias?
It'd be tough.
It'd be tough. It'd be really tough. You got to really be good at what you do for a living to make that happen.
Well, there's no doubt that Rock and Austin were really good at what they were doing. And after Stone Cold wins the title for the second straight WrestleMania, he beats Shawn Michaels at 14 and celebrates with Mike Tyson. At 15, he beats The Rock, and he celebrates with Earl Hebner. Earl Hebner getting in on the beer drinking action. That was a fun visual for me as a wrestling fan.
That was very unselfish of Steve. It was a very nice thing to do, especially from a guy that's not known for being nice all the time. And Earl deserved the flowers, as they say, as the kids say nowadays. Earl deserved the flowers. He'd gone through all kinds of shit, him and Dave, and they've been loyal and they've been put in some tough spots. So I really, uh, I appreciated what Steve did. He did the same thing with me at a WrestleMania somewhere. I got a picture of it where we're toasting a beer, and I think he's wearing my hat. That picture's made the loop, made a round time or two around the earth. So it was. I thought that was cool. I thought that was really cool and a nice thing for Austin to do in the heat of battle, heat of the moment.
Let's remind everybody that Rock and Austin do have a rematch at the next pay-per-view. It was Backlash. Of course, that's always after WrestleMania, including this weekend. But that's really forgotten about because of what happens the next night on Raw. Rock is thrown out of the corporation and turned babyface. I guess at that point, he probably had to turn. I mean, the fans they're with
Well,
him.
they didn't want to boo him, Connie.
Right.
They embraced his skills. They loved his game. They could see in front of their very eyes that they were watching a very, very special talent. And that's cool. That's what you keep looking for. He didn't get old to the audience, but he got old to the audience as a heel. Because what is there to hate? He didn't wrestle like a heel. He didn't look like a heel typically would look. So I thought that was just a fait accompli. People loved him and respected him, and they didn't want to boo him.
Well said. The roles, I'll get it. The roles are reversing here. Triple H is in the corporation and Rock is now a babyface. So of course those two are going to come back together and they're going to wrestle at Over the Edge. And Rock had this to say about that night. I was backstage in the dressing room going over the details of my match with Triple H in China. We were talking, moving around, trying to figure out how to make the match memorable. And Sergeant Slaughter walked into the room and said, Owen is hurt. I looked at Hunter and then looked at Sarge and said, oh, come on. Are you serious or are you ribbing? Owen was known for his pranks, and I thought maybe this was just another example of his twisted sense of humor. No, Sarge said, it looks pretty bad. They're working on him in the middle of the ring. I went straight to the curtain. As I reached the gorilla position where everyone was gathered, I could see the shock on their faces, the disbelief. People were crying, hugging. Then it hit me. This is real. Now, we can't really, as much as we all hate to hear that story again, from what I understand, The Rock and Owen were pretty good friends.
Yeah.
And Owen, I guess, was sympathetic to Rock being a legacy performer and new here and learning the ropes and that sort of thing. So I guess they hit it off very early in Rock's career.
Oh yeah, and they were both multi-generational talents.
Yes.
They had a lot in common, starting as kids. So they had a lot in common. They could communicate well, but it just speaks to the other thing, Connie, and that is that everybody had basically the same opinion of Owen. They loved him, and that's why his death in Kansas City was such a heartbreaking, gut-wrenching situation. And I can tell you that from fact because I was sitting mere feet from where he fell at ringside with the King.